we will begin with a just as exciting Game 5 between the Phoenix Suns and the Milwaukee Bucks. And this game had the potential both ways of being a bit of a blowout. And in the end, we finished with just a fantastic last play. Giannis now back-to-back games with defining highlight plays of the series that put him in that kind of legend status. I know I mentioned on previous pods, he is having a LeBronian type series in the numbers that he's putting up and the impact he is having on both sides of the floor. The only thing he was missing was those highlights, right? You know, LeBron has plenty of them. And Giannis now with the block on the lob to Ayton, which was unbelievable. He now gets his own lob, finishing over a Chris Paul who was trying to push him and prevent it, and gets the and one, stares right into the camera. One of the coldest things I ever seen. That was hype. And he's been great. And his supporting cast the last two games have been great. And that's really what's helped them take a 3-2 lead in this series.
I did not really believe it when I said it, Bucks taking this series, but it might even be Bucks in 6. I totally tapped out of the basketball world. What do you think has shifted for this 3-game winning streak?
Well, the biggest thing is Giannis, in the way that he has just seemed to figure out things on both ends of the floor. We saw the beginnings of it in the Nets series, where by the time that Game 7 had arrived, he was almost beating that team through sheer force of will, using his physical presence to dominate. And then on the defensive side, he has things really, really figured out. He's always finding a way to have his fingerprints on every possession. And the thing that he's done really well in this Phoenix series now is Phoenix is so great, such crafty ball handlers, shot makers, but there's only so many things you can do in a pick and roll, right? And the Bucks have started to figure out what the tendencies are, what they're seeing, what to give, what to take away. There have been like basically no corner 3-pointers given up now to the Phoenix Suns, which is what they killed the Bucks with in games 1 and 2. The Bucks have done a great job taking those away. And then it's just Giannis finding his way to adapt to the different pick and roll situations. He's great as a help defender. He's great around the rim. He's just so physically imposing that he's really made a huge impact on this series. And then the other thing is Game 4, Chris Middleton, big game. Game 5, not only Chris Middleton following up a great Game 4, but Jrue Holiday with his best game of the finals so far. The defensive stuff always stands out more when he's having a great offensive night, because you're going, oh my God, this is what they paid all that money for, made that big trade for, to get the two-way presence of Jrue. But he had been defensively solid this whole series and really, really harassing Chris Paul as he tried to bring a ball up the floor. But now when he starts making those shots, I believe he had 27 in this game. It's just huge. You cannot stop this Bucks team if all three of those guys are scoring, because of the things they do on both sides of the floor. And Jrue Holiday arriving in this series and having a big game like that, it just sealed Phoenix's fate, because they had such a great start to the game, but the Bucks were never scared and they clawed their way back. They actually end up building a pretty big lead of their own. Giannis has some trouble with free throws late. This game gets tight. And then you have, of course, that great play by Jrue Holiday on the last possession, stripping Booker, throwing the alley-oop instead of trying to dribble out the clock, trusting that Giannis is going to make that play. And it's huge. It's so huge that they finally have that third member show up. It really could swing things now, because they're going home. They have all the advantage in the world. They are the more physically imposing team now. It just looks like their size is overwhelming Phoenix. And I said I thought Phoenix, I had to stick with my pick. I thought that Phoenix had 2 more great shooting games in them. But the way that the Bucks have been able to just make those shots harder, this team is really starting to crumple under the pressure. And this is the Bucks series to lose now at this point, going home for Game 6.
I'm sure Bucks fans very nervous hearing those words. You never know when Middleton might just lose his touch, or Giannis might decide to try out his mid-range 3-point game. But yeah, I'm really interested to see how each team tries to close this out. Also, that Chris Paul play on Giannis's game-ending dunk, not doing anything to improve my opinion.
Yeah, that was definitely questionable. it's a foul that 10 years ago would be much more accepted, and then 20 years would be expected of a player like that. But nowadays, with the flagrant foul rules and in the increasingly softer and more strict calling of the rules and fouls, I was surprised that we saw nothing out of that afterwards, because it did seem like a very dangerous play. But Giannis just grabbing a hold of that rim and using it to cushion his landing, really, really spectacular stuff from him. And at this point, I feel confident saying like this game six fully lies in the hands of everyone else on Milwaukee. Giannis has consistently given incredible performances, even if it's not just taking over and scoring everything. He's really dictating the flow of the game. So if he knows he doesn't have it for a stretch and he's tired, he's distributing, he's being a decoy, he's setting screens, he's still rolling hard and impacting the game in so many other ways that just, he's going to be there every night. His compete level is unmatched. And it's just going to depend on what they get from Jrue or Middleton in this game six. And then on the other side, if you're Phoenix, DeAndre Ayton's been fantastic this whole playoff run, but you need just a little bit more from him. You need him to just be a little bit more physically imposing, because right now the top guy in this series is Giannis in terms of dominance, and Ayton at least has the size to go up against the likes of Antetokounmpo.
Yeah, I don't know what Phoenix has done the game 3, 4, and 5, but game 1 and 2, it felt like they'd certainly, this whole playoffs, there have been times where they'd settle for these contested mid-range ISO plays, and it feels like they really should be trying to get him more touches in the paint, because when he finds his comfort zone, he is so incredibly efficient from there. It's got to be at least worth a shot if you're looking to shake things up. Lopez and Giannis, definitely the toughest paint defense to attempt that against. They've had to.
Yeah, it's they're gonna need more from him, specifically when the Brook Lopez minutes in this series have been tough for the Bucks, and Booker and Paul have been able to expose him at a decent rate. But it's when the Bucks decide to go less Lopez and smaller, that's when Ayton really has to take over the game. And 20 and 10 is not bad in game 5, but just what you expect from him, the bar has been raised, and I would like to see a little bit more out of him in this game 6. They're going to need it. Otherwise, their magical run will come to an end.
Yeah, interesting, a team with so many lethal weapons. Part of you wants to say, like, surely maybe Cam Johnson's going to go pull 20 out. Cam Payne go pull 20 out. Saric, like someone might just explode. But at the same time, when nothing's going, it's that downward negative spiral.
Yeah.
And you can't ask much. What did Booker have? 40 points in game 5?
Yeah.
So you can't ask too much more there.
Yeah, it is. It's the NBA Finals, right? It exposes that 6th, 7th guy on your bench. If it's wavering, it's probably not going to come through for you in this stage. And Milwaukee just has slightly more reliable guys who have been here a little bit more over Phoenix. And that's been a decisive factor in this series as well.